All right, you're back here on the Gill Connections Podcast again. So humbled to be your host, Mike Cunningham, the podcast guy, the Twitter guy. I guess my official title is National Business Development Manager. I don't know. I think I named my own title. They just give me whatever I want, and I am blessed that they have given me the ability to host the Gill Connections Podcast. So if this is your first time pressing play, man, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have an absolute blast and check out the rest of our back library with some amazing coaches, men and women around the country, sometimes around the world, that we've been so honored to have here on the show. If this is your 100th time being here, man, thanks for being a super user. I'm so grateful for you guys. It always humbles me that someone presses play on this podcast each and every day. So let's get into it with today's guest. This one, I've told you guys this before, there's several different types of guests on the show. Some I've actually never met in person. Some I've done some business with. Others, certainly they're maybe customers, but I consider them friends. And this is one of them. We're going to have some story. We'll have some inside joke stories coming from this one. Trust me. Help me welcome the director of the Birmingham CrossPlex indoor facility there in the beautiful Birmingham, Alabama area, the wise, the wonderful Mr. Kenneth Cox. Kenneth, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, man.
Man, I don't know. I'm sure you do know. Do you know how special that facility is to me personally?
I can only imagine, especially with Gill being all over our indoor facility. You being you having roots here in Alabama as well. So I can only imagine how much pride you have, in the Crossplex and the success this facility has had.
That's exactly right. It definitely was honored that Gil was chosen for all the equipment. That that's my job, so I'm very blessed for that. Right? It helped me keep my job. That's fun. It's the wife enjoys that. It's always a good time that I keep my job. But yeah, growing up running track in the state of Alabama. So for our before the Crossplex, our indoor state meet was in Decatur in a horse barn, and that's not an exaggeration. And was it was colder inside than outside, which I don't know how that meteorologically worked. Dusty, I mean, just unsafe. It was just amazing. So now to have this palace in Birmingham, Alabama, dude. Every time I get to go, every time I see a meet, a picture, a video, literally it's so much pride that other kids that were my age in the state of Alabama get to, like, I hope they realize how lucky they are, because this wasn't the whole time, man. So super love that facility. And then recently found out that you're the man now. You're the director of the Crossplex, dude. That's so awesome. Congratulations.
So much, man. God is good. I'm extremely excited, very humbled to be in this role, and I can attest to the fact that I've definitely have a lot of stories, a lot of great memories from my time here in Birmingham that are all associated with the Crossplex. So I'm excited. Sure.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to learn more, but we like to keep things in order here. So let's hop in our Wayback Machine and let's learn more about you. Because here's the spoiler: sometimes we have these directors and things like that on here, and they don't really have a. This guy's got a track background, trust me, and a track coaching background. You're gonna really enjoy this. And what I really, one of the reasons I really wanted Kenneth on the show was beyond I love him to death and consider him a friend. Beyond that, he's now the director of my favorite track facility in the entire country. But I love to show you guys and gals that are track coaches that, as much as I love track, there's no bigger fan than track coaches than this guy, right? But there are other avenues in our sport that provide value. So you don't have to leave our sport, but you don't have to coach. So whether it's administration or media and things like that, this is one of those roles where it's nice to have a track person involved in overseeing the Crossplex. And so I really wanted Kenneth to be here so we can talk about his coaching career and journey, and then this connection over to now serving the sport in a different role that I think is as important as any of our other roles. So that's what we're going to get into. But to get there, we got to go back, Kenneth. And so, assuming, and we know what assuming does for us, that you were a track athlete, where in the world does track and field start for you?
Man, so track started for me at age 8. So I've been a part of track and field, really, I guess, for 40 years now. I guess I'm telling my age, but yeah, I'm 48. So at age 8, It's when track and field started. I got introduced to the sport. My first sport ever was soccer. So I started playing soccer when I was 6, and enjoyed it, and then one of the things that really kind of got me into track was the parents of the soccer team kept talking to my parents. Oh, man, he is really fast. Like, has he ever thought about running track? And my parents didn't know about track in terms of youth sports, and I didn't know about the traditional sports of football and basketball, especially growing up in the Carolinas. But then also knowing about soccer. And so track and field was introduced to me through some parents. And so we pretty much just parents, found the local track club, which was the Junior Striders track club out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And from there, man, it just it became my true love.
I was going to ask, did you fall in love? Sometimes we run track out of spite sometimes. So you
Yeah.
said it became your true love. What was it in this early stages? What was it because, you had a lot of options. You could have gone and played football, basketball, stayed with soccer, beyond sports. You could have done chess club. I don't know, other things. What about track? Why did that become a love for you?
Oh, I mean, I did understand that I had talent. I felt fast. I mean, I was faster than a lot of my peers growing up. In grade school, and we always had races in the neighborhood. Um, and so it was always something that I felt like just came natural to me. I didn't understand. Obviously, I didn't learn about the intricacies of the sport, but I did it because it was fun, because I felt free. When I competed, there was a nervousness, right? Obviously, you start a race and you're nervous and you have the gun firing and all those things. But as it relates to showing up to practice, meeting friends from all over the city, it kind of gave me a community and a culture that I really started to embrace, and I have pride in it. And so while a lot of people were new to track as far as youth sports, it was the one thing that I could translate every season. So when I played soccer, I didn't stop playing soccer at that time, but I knew that I would, play soccer, and it would be fun. But I knew, especially from my parents, like I was going to track practice afterwards because I didn't run enough. I was excited, and I just really, really enjoyed it. When I played football, or in the fall, I was playing football. It was something that I recognized because I was doing the workouts and because I was being tested in a different way. It translated, to the athleticism and just the it translated well to some of the other sports.
So in high school, you did track and football?
Yes. So so all the way through, elementary school, middle school, it was track, it was football, and then I'm from North Carolina, so you got to play basketball if you're from North Carolina, regardless of whether or not you're good. And I was pretty good, in basketball. But my parents were intentional about having me have being involved in a sport each season. So it was football in the fall, in the winter, if you will, basketball in the winter, and then track in the summer. And so I did that all the way through. And then when I got to high school, my parents suggested that you got to make a choice, man. Like you need to kind of focus on at least two sports. And for me, it was football and it was also track.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have indoor at that time in high school, and it wasn't until my junior year is when we, as a school, started sponsoring indoor track. And so I was a part of the first indoor track program or a team that we had. I attended Fuquay Varina High School,
Okay.
which is right outside of Raleigh. It's in the Raleigh Durham. It's in the Raleigh, Cary, Apex, Garner
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kind of triangle area. But yeah, it was football and it was track, and then I was very, very proud of the experience that I had, because again, just like when I started running track, it kept me honest. I was good in football. I played wide receiver, and so I was a speed guy on the end. But I recognized that there's a difference between football speed and track speed.
Mm.
And I can relate to that. There were some guys that were like, I'm fast. And I would see those guys in track. And then I would also see some of those guys in football. And there was a difference. They thought I was the same. But for me, I recognized that I had a gift.
One of the harder parts of doing like an interview podcast, and definitely an interview podcast that talks about a journey, is as the host, I have to work to get you, the guest, into Kenneth at that age, not Kenneth at today with his experience, who is looking back and relating. So that was all a setup for this question.
Mhm.
It strikes me now. I've known you for a long time, and you are certainly one of my more cerebral friends. You are a very intelligent young man, so it won't surprise me if this is actually true. But you described how you could see like track helping out other sports. Like you could see I think you even said the translation of, okay, what I'm doing over here is helping there. And certainly as 48, I'm almost 50 year old men and people that are in track and field, like, yeah, duh. Yeah, we've lived it. Did
Right.
you actually, as a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, were you actually able to see like, oh, what I'm doing in track is actually making me like I'm a better football player because of that, not just like, oh, I'm getting faster. I mean, that's one component of it, but there's other components. Were you actually able to see that as a 16, 17-year-old kid?
I was, but I would say that because of, my coaches, because of
Mm,
my, my relay, the guys on my relay team. We were part of, the Junior Stratas at the time was based in Raleigh, but we had a number of people that were from other schools in the Raleigh,
mm,
in the Raleigh Durham area, and so a lot of us played football and also ran track. Some of us were better in football than we were in track, vice versa. But there was that, we kind of held each other accountable. And so it was kind of part of the journey. And I think also, too, our track coaches, like our track coaches, a lot of them were our parents. A lot of them were, people that were part of the community that encouraged us, to as leaders, if you will, in our respective schools and communities. They felt like if we could make an impact in our schools by again being well rounded, because that was the name of the game, is really being well rounded.
mm.
Then we would be more focused. We would also it translated for me and for a number of us to being better students because we had something to kind of keep us out of keep us out of trouble, if you
Right.
will. We were always focused on things, and then we also had we had that structure, and I needed that. And so again, I am certainly a product of my environment, and so yes, I was able to see that because I had people in my life that were reminding me all the time that if you aspire to do this, or for me, I'm the oldest of three, so I had two other siblings that were watching when I didn't realize it. That were watching what I did, how I did it, but also how I responded to coaching or my parents
Right.
or my leaders in the community.
Yeah, I love that. Uh, I love our guests have done like football and track, or volleyball and track too in sports. My favorite question is asked, at least in high school, would you have considered yourself a football player? I think I know the answer to this. A football player who ran track, or a track athlete who played football?
Yeah, man, I would probably say a I would definitely say a track guy that played football.
Yeah.
I missed both of them, and like really, like when it was football season, I could not wait. I could not wait in order to get in the track season.
Hmm.
And then same thing with track season. I couldn't wait to play football, and I think a lot of that was because again I started at age 8, and again looking back on it, I was very very blessed to have competed in a lot of USATF national
Mm.
championship. So we went to nationals. Man, our summer vacations were were track meets, and out of 50 states, I probably have been to, I would say at least 40 of those, whether it be regionals, whether it be nationals.
Yeah.
A lot of relay opportunities and just to be able to travel.
That's
And
awesome.
so having said that, I look forward to it because again, it was the grind of football, and
Hmm.
then I was like, man, I can't wait to track season because it's going to be warmer, and I'm just going to be able to not worry about you know plays and different things like that.
Yeah.
But then also too, my and this is I was talking about my coaches is that because again I was blessed to attend national championships. That bled into a lot of our summer workouts for football. So, it was almost, I was it was an encouragement as well. If I did not qualify for regionals or nationals, then I would be out on the field, doing suicides or whatever it is, man, like up downs with all of my teammates when it's hot with all that equipment on. Um, and so, yeah, I was like, man, I'm going to nationals. Like I'm committed to doing what is going as far as I can, so I can kind of string out, this
Right.
summer, not be in pads.
I think it's really important, and we sometimes don't think about this, but for our young people, whether it's clubs or high school or just sports in general, I think that like when you mentioned about traveling to other states and just other regions of the, I think that's so important for young people. One to be able to see other people and how they live and their accents and things like that, but also just a little bit of like, hey, well, there is life outside of the 10-mile radius of our hometown that there's other thing. It's a big world out there, and by the way, it's available to you. That's
Absolutely.
I think that's important.
But I think too, I look at a lot of the guys uh, now that I looked up to, that I aspired to be athletically. And a lot of those guys were, if I was 11, 12 age group, they were, 15, 16, 17, 18, they were intermediate, or young men, that was the classification
Mhm.
for USATF at the time. Um, but a lot of those guys, like I wanted to do what they were doing. They were going on trips. They were taking a track team to Germany.
Right.
Different things like that. And I was like, man, like I want to do that too. One of the things that I did is I started collecting hats when I was younger. But what I would do is every school, every university that we went to, and I wish I still had a lot of these hats, but like I had a starter hat, and like every university we would go to, I would go
That's
to the
cool.
bookstore and
Hmm.
I would actually get like a starter hat if they had it, and I would wear it. So I had a you know Rascal Horn, Cornhusker hat. I mean, just I had
That's
Washington
cool.
hat, I had Maryland hat, just different hats. Of course, I had to get a Carolina hat, but like a lot of the hats and stuff. So it was like a badge of honor, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, so I mean, those are types of things that kind of incentive. It gave me an incentive to travel, to see the world. As far as I was concerned, I mean,
Hmm.
going to California was obviously seeing the world. But then also, what I started realizing is that there's so much talent. I mean, you think you fast until you go down to like Miami, and those guys move. They move
Right.
different. You
And
know,
you're in an age where we don't really have the internet, so there's no like, oh, let me just see what the disorder. You have no clue. You think, oh, I'm the fastest around here. I must be the
so
fastest everywhere. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Some
yeah,
cats move differently in different
oh yeah,
places.
oh yeah, 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 yep, yep,
Well,
absolutely.
Kenneth, one of my favorite things is, we kind of have a spoiler alert. It's like, okay, we're talking about young Kenneth in high school, 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, but spoiler alert, you become a track coach.
Yeah,
So I'm always trying to find out, like, were there things that you were doing back then that kind of, if we, now that we have hindsight, we know, like, oh, yeah, of course you're going to become a coach. What kind of track athlete were you? And what I mean by that is I could care less about your PRs and all that kind of stuff. I'm more interested in, like, were you the kind of kid that would go into coach's office and be like, hey, not in a defiant way, not in a pushback way, but like in a curiosity way, like, hey, so we did blocks on Monday and today we're doing flies and tomorrow we're doing 400-meter repeats. I don't know, whatever. Why'd we do that? Like, why'd you schedule it that way, coach? Like, because you were like you didn't really know, but you're like you were trying to figure it all out, or were because I have a lot of grace for high school young people in this world. Were you the kind of kid who was like, oh, he told me to run, so I ran. That's what I did.
yeah. Yeah, I would say it was more that he told me to run,
Hmm.
so so we ran. I was the guy who, no lie, if it was raining, everybody was on the bus. We didn't have cell phones and all those types of things. I was waiting after practice. I was waiting after school either for it to stop raining, or for coach to tell us that we wouldn't have practice.
Oh,
And
you were
so
not like self-releasing yourself. It was like if coach says I can go, I'll go. But until then, we supposed to
he,
be
he,
here.
he did
That
not
that
say
doesn't surprise me. That's on brand for the Kenneth Cox I know. Yeah, yeah. This makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
he did not
dedicated.
tell us. Yeah, he did not tell us that practice was canceled.
Hmm.
And so we're going to do it in the gym. We're going to do it in the hall.
Right.
Uh, we're gonna find a way
I'll
to
say
get
almost
it
a
done.
no excuses. That's exactly what I was going. Yeah, like just a all right, we'll go in the gym then. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Hmm.
Right. Yeah. And then my track coach in high school, Edward Towns is his name. God rest his soul. He actually passed away when I think 2 weeks. Well, see, I think it was like 2 weeks to a month before our first child was born,
Hmm.
2007. But but like he was like a father figure to me. I mean, I still my parents are still living and great relationship with my parents, but as a young high school guy, boy, um, I mean, there was I needed to hear something else. I needed to hear another male figure, voice talking about how much uh, he cared for me.
Hmm.
He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Because again, there's always the comparison. Is a thief, and so for me, he was that person. And so being at practice, listening to him, talking to him, uh, just I'm being observing. I'm very very observant,
Hmm.
about from my surrounding and all those types of things. And so uh, instead of asking questions, I paid attention a lot. And so while I didn't, like I said before, verbally ask questions, I was always looking to see why he set up the practices the way he did. While we were pulling certain things on a certain day,
Hmm.
while he had alternative workouts. Again, it's raining, but I know our coach. He is all day. He's figuring out a way where we can do box jumps or whatever it
Hmm.
is, always, or in the weight room or in the locker room. Like he's going to find something for us to do, so that we can kind of be 1% better, on those days. And so that for me made one of the biggest impacts for me,
Hmm.
as it relates to coaching.
You know, it's some of this podcasting stuff is sometimes I'm the psychologist and you're laying down the couch, and sometimes it's the other way around. I've got a freshman in high school, and I was thinking about that. I was like, I know your relationship with your dad. Your dad was awesome, a great father you had there, and so I know there's no like diss of like, well, thank God I had a track coach because my dad was never around. Like I know it's not that situation, but I love how you described your track coach. Kind of giving things in different perspectives because we were teenagers, and now I don't know that you were much of a defiant teenager because you're such a good person, Kenneth. But
You sound like my
uh,
wife.
yeah, right, right. But my son, who I love to, my whole world, right? But there's times where I'm like, my Archie's listen, like I'm your dad, like I've been around this stuff, I can help out a little bit, and it's like, oh, we all have this. Some smaller degrees, some bigger degrees. This father son, especially during high school, he's feeling his independence and things like that. And it's like, you know what? It literally made me think about this when you're describing your track coach. I'm like, man, the men and women around this country, college and high school, by the way, this isn't just a high school thing, you play such an important role in these teenagers' lives. Even if they
Absolutely.
come from, if you're like, oh man, Johnny and Susie, they have great households. Yeah, and they're still teenagers, being a little again, part of that becoming independent, there's a little bit of defiance in there. It's like you are such a integral part of that family. Like we need you to be supportive of that kid, and
Absolutely.
almost like reiterating the things that mom and dad are saying. They're saying it every day, but
Yes.
because they're mom and dad, the kids sometimes think of it a little differently. So that's an important description you gave there of our high school and, like I said, and college coaches out there. Did you have different? The club coaches were not the same coaches as the high school, correct?
Yeah, they were not. They
How,
certainly weren't.
how did you back then, and I don't, maybe it's different today, but how did that get navigated? One of the things that I do in the chair that I'm in is tried to help increase communication. And there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of, but there is a pocket of bickering between our club coaches and our high school coaches. Some justified. I'm not here to say everybody's wrong, but a lot of judgment and a lot of ownership, and not in necessarily the good way. How did back then, in the late kind of, you graduated what, 96?
Yeah,
95,
95.
you're 1 year behind. I graduated 94. So in the mid, early to mid 90s, how did you navigate club coach and high school coach and all that back then?
So it was for us, it was, high school coach up until, state championships. And then when school was out, then you're pretty much, then you were with your club coach.
Yeah. So it was a clear delineation of like, okay, if I'm in high school and there's still high school meets going on, I'm with the high school coach.
Yes, yeah, it was. And I would say that I think because we were able to see these from our perspective, we were able to see and interact with our high school coach on a consistent basis, right? Like he had keys to the track. Again, we didn't have Uber and all those types of things, and so you know, a lot of times if we had to go to our club practice, for us, we started out, we were practicing at NC State, and then for some time we were practicing at St. Aug, St. Augustine's College. And then sometimes we were practicing at a local high school, and I mean, when I say sometimes, I mean like over the course of my 4 years
Right.
for club track. And so with that being the case, we didn't have consistent access to our high school. And then we were on campus at NC State, St. Aug, and we obviously had to wait until that season was over or, at night, what I'm saying? So those are a lot of things. And so what we really did is we leaned into, putting a lot of the, focus on track in high school, because we would be at some point, if you're a freshman, you're going to be a sophomore, junior, senior, you're going to be the leader that has to model what that looks like, for our younger siblings, for me, or some of our younger teammates. And so, and then also it's different. It's different now with these club coaches, but back then, when we showed up to practice, we may not have had, the jump boards, we might not have the plyo boxes and different things like that. And I would say, my coach was he was very forward thinking. So he created a lot of things. He built a lot of things rather. And for our high school. And so with that being the case, when we got to summer track, we showed up, we warmed up, and we got after like practice. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have some of the other things, bungees and different things like that. We didn't have the resources. So we pretty much just did the best that we could. Very similar to, again, kind of going back to like the off season, right? Like my off season was football and very aggressive and doing different things like that. Resting before we had indoor track, and then ready for outdoor track. And so again, yeah, it definitely was like it was mutual respect.
Yeah.
Mutual respect.
Yeah, I think that's, we've advanced so much in sports in the 20 plus years we've been out of high school, man. Not all advancement is necessarily positive advancement, right? So that's interesting. Okay, I'm not necessarily hearing like I'm going to become a coach type.
Yeah.
Where in high school, where are we as far as like I'm going to become a coach? I'm not really hearing much at all.
Yeah. So I think for me, it really, really started when I would say like living, like carrying on the legacy of my coaches, and so again, my high school coach was incredible, man. Like I said, man, God rest his soul. I learned so much about how to take care of myself, how to recover, how, if there was a small injury, like I was very, very transparent with him about how I felt. And I was one of the team captains, like my junior and senior year, and was looked upon as a leader my sophomore year as well, but really junior, senior year. And, you start having those conversations about what do you want to do when you grow up, and, I always appreciated sports. I think in my high school class, I think they might have voted me like most likely to be in the Olympics or something like that.
Is that right? Oh, wow.
Yeah. it was pretty
boy,
cool.
were they wrong. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, no. But at the same time, I knew that I didn't really see it as a profession. I mean, I didn't want to I did not have a desire to coach or
Right.
to teach.
Mhm.
And so all of the coaches that I had relationships with were all either volunteer coaches,
Yeah.
worked at the airport
Mhm.
or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Or my dad was, one of our coaches. He worked third shift. He would do it, during the day.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't really see it as a profession. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It was more
Yeah.
like when I graduate from college and I'm a big time businessman or whatever,
Right. Right.
and what I would do is I would give back to my
Yeah.
community
That
by being
that's
by being a coach.
that's the most common. Now we've had all the varying degrees, but and certainly some people have like, oh yeah, since I was 6 years old, I knew I wanted to be a coach. But that's the
Yeah,
most common where and it's usually expressed kind of similar to what you're describing there is they don't even realize that it is a job. Like, oh, like it's right there in front of you, and you still are like, oh wow, like I didn't realize this guy gets paid. That's
yeah,
cool. So a lot of the volunteer, like, oh okay, yeah, when I'm working a job, I'll come back and help. So take us to senior year. You're thinking about school
yeah.
and things like that. Talk to us about kind of
Thinking about
the
school, yeah,
recruiting. And I
yeah,
don't even know if you played football and or track. And what did you start as a major?
yeah, yeah. So and this will certainly answer your question as I got from like high school into college, which is unbelievable when I think about it, and I even share with my kids and even my former athletes. But Um, you know, I, I was being recruited for for football and also for track, and didn't really know where I wanted to go to school. I mean, I mean, obviously, I was always a Tar Heel fan, and I mean, I bleed, Carolina blue, but there were some other schools that were reaching out as well, small schools, some schools that were far away. And for me, I wanted to make sure that I was in a situation where I would be successful academically, as well as have an opportunity to continue to pursue track and field. Because I think as I got into my senior year, I really kind of figured out like if I can play football and run track, that'd be great. But if I get an opportunity to run track, then that's going to be my thing.
Okay.
Um, and so went on the recruiting trail. Visited some schools that are kind of were kind of considering me doing both. But it really kind of came down to, especially towards the end of in the track season for me, the opportunity to be able to run at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I mean, at the time, man, that Carolina Blue track, oh my gosh, it's like heaven, man. I mean, I can see it now. It was unbelievable. UNC was at the time before, the Triangle area is blown up
Yeah.
and now has tolls and all those types of things, so you can get everywhere in like 30 minutes. But Chapel Hill to Fuquay Arena was about a good hour and a half, maybe hour and 45 minutes, depending on traffic. And so it was far enough away, but close enough if I needed to get home. And then also too, again, my parents being involved in track and field, they were track coaches. They learned about track and all those types of things. They were officials as well. As a matter of fact, I mean, my parents still officiate. My dad is officiate. He's one of
Wow.
the main officials for the ACC, indoor and outdoor, and
Dude, I
also
didn't know that. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. So we as a family, man, we kind of grew up. We grew up in track and field, like
Like
you know,
together, like
yeah,
literally. Yeah.
anything about it. But instead of like, having other people who they may or may not know, like what their, intentions are, they in turn invested their time and their resources into learning about track as well, kind of from the ground level. And so, again, I had a lot of conversations with my high school coach as well. He taught them his son actually ran track at University of Tennessee. Reginald Towns
Hmm.
was his son's name. Incredible. I mean, he's unbelievable. I mean, I can't even remember all the different records and all those types of things that he's done at on the national stage and international stage. But like, he would talk to me about what he went into, like the conversations he had with his son, but also other former athletes that came through Fuquay, the good, the bad, the ugly. If you go to this particular school, this is what you're going to get, but not get. You want to make sure you are being coached, properly. You've gone to a program that maybe you're familiar with. And again, in the Raleigh Durham area, I had the opportunity to be able to see coaches like Coach Fry, who coached at NC State, coached at University of Florida. Who was at the time he was at East Carolina, and then at the time he was at UNC. And so these were coaches that I was always impressed by. Always kind of they had camps and different things like that. I was always listening, observing how they ran their programs. Again, it helped that he was very established. He was at UNC, and so having that conversation with him about competing at UNC, really, I mean, once I had a conversation with him about it, went to a track meet where I was like a senior, and right before indoor state championships and stuff like that, it just became like, man, this is where I want to be. Yeah. And so they had a great business school, which I thought I wanted to be a business major, and they had some other resources to help with academic skills and different things like that. And so it was great for me to be able to do that and to be able to stay in state, wear the Carolina blue, but also too, like, to be able to learn from some incredible teammates that were older than me. And so being there again, all those types of things, watching him and this is key for real. And this, I'm pretty sure at some point you asked this question, but like, seeing him as not just a professional coach, but also seeing him as a father. Like, he had 3 kids. I came from a family of 3. He was, a positive, Black example for me as a man on campus, on a big time campus. He had a lot of success, but then also too, the athletes that he had coached and they've been a part of, were just unbelievable. Like Alan Johnson. I mean, like, Tasha Colander, like, I mean, Milton Campbell, man, Tony McCall. Like, these are all people who I got a chance to see when I was like, a senior, a senior in high school, but also that I had an opportunity to be around greatness. I came from a small 3A school. I was like a big fish in a small pond. And I go to UNC and I'm a small fish in a big pond. But being grounded and understanding that, like, I can do this, you know what I'm saying? Because if I continue in this way of being a big fish in a small pond, for me, then I don't grow and I'm not challenged as much as I could potentially be. And again, this is all stuff that my coaches, my mentors were telling me about. And so, yeah, like that really kind of shaped me as well, because I got a chance to see coaches coaching like collegiate athletes. But then also too, this was the 95 when I was in high school. I mean, I was in college. My freshman year was 95, 96. So now we got the 96 Olympics in Atlanta coming up. UNC was the team, or the sprints and hurdles, training camp, for the Olympics. Oh, wow. And so I got a chance to see, not knowing. I mean, as a freshman, my head is already spinning, but I'm getting a chance to see him interact. All the coaches, Coach Craddock, God rest his soul, some other, the throws coaches and stuff like that. I got a chance to see them interact with us, but also interact with professional athletes or aspiring, Olympians. I got a chance to see the family type environment, that they always try to create. And so, again, going back to, why I started running track, this was the community that I could, like, really, really own, but at the same time be on a college campus, a huge college campus like UNC. And so, again, at this time, I'm kind of figuring out, man, like, business is probably not what I want to go into. Econ 10, for anybody who's watching at UNC, man, it's kind of like it's the equalizer. Like, you think you want to be a business major until you take Econ 10, and it'll humble you real quickly. But what I had my advisor told me, said, you want to be in business. This was well before phones and all that stuff, but like, but you also need to know how to communicate. Even if you are a successful businessman, you got to be able to communicate. And so what I had is a major in organizational communication, with the emphasis in like, business. And so that kind of got me out of my, my shell, if you will, in terms of being able to speak outside of just my team and all those things, but like really get me being intentional about, speaking to, classes and doing different things like that. And so I knew like, okay, not majoring in business, I'm majoring in organizational communication, which will help me in business. What kind of internships can I be a part of? And so I started I was on the Special Olympics, World Games. So I was a part of that way back when I didn't even think that, it really, really mattered. But like, again, my mom, and she's all about us, volunteering and being a part of things in the community, but then also to the state games, and so I was able to be a part of like state games, specifically the track and field, event, as well as the opening and closing ceremonies, and so again, I started getting a chance to see it from a different lens. And then a lot of the opportunities that I had came because of being an athlete, right? Like, oh man, you're an athlete, so you understand about hard work, and you understand about discipline, you understand about bringing teams together, and it's bigger than just yourself. And I was like, you know what, like I think there's something to this athletics, and I think it's something to being able to think outside of just the traditional like professions. And then when I would go back and talk to my, high school coach and my parents and all that stuff, like he was like, look, I really think you need to, definitely, want to school, you get a degree, you want to at least kind of work in your degree, work in your major to see if that's something that you never want to have any regrets. So go ahead and like, work in your major. And for me, I had an opportunity to work for Nokia mobile phones, which, for you, for everybody who is probably 20 or 30 plus, or 20 and 30 or below. That was like the Apple of the 90s. I got a chance again to be a part of my major, and so I was working in communications. And
this when you talk about Nokia, is that post college?
Yes, post college.
Okay, hold on. Let's go back to college. I got a lot to unpack here. Hold on. Let me do my job, Kenneth, and ask some questions, sir. It's I consider listen. I have done this. Listened to you for days, so it's fascinating. Okay, I'm curious. So, Coach Fry is your coach at UNC. First of all, I do love that you got to go to the school that you kind of grew up like. Oh, that's the big school. That's not everybody's path. So I do love that you got to experience that. Coach Fry to me is one of those. Like he just for some reason embodies like the coach's coach to me. Like he's a coach. Like that dude was put on earth to coach.
Absolutely.
What was it like being under his tutelage? Did you realize? I know you described how like you knew he was a big deal. First of all, he's at UNC, some of the other places he's been to, some of the people that he's coached. So like, oh, okay, he's a pretty big deal here. But were you able to understand as 18, 19, 20-year-old Kenneth, like, oh, like this guy, air quotes here, knows it all. Like I need to just soak everything in. Like, what was that experience being coached by him?
It was I mean, it was intense at times, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. I mean, you pretty much knew where you stood, with him in terms of, taking advantage of like the off season. Like it wasn't just random for us to be out there, doing workouts. If there was a time that he wanted you in his office or at the track, it was intentional. Like I mean, he always had a purpose for doing things, whether it be community service, whether it be representing the university and our track program in the highest way. Like he was always about making sure that representation matters. It always did. If there were people that were around the track, it was a very, very close community. So I want people like just hanging out. They were there to either pour into us, to show an example of what to do. I mean, he had some of his, former athletes that were either past or that he was actually coaching. But like they had to fall in line as well. You know what I'm saying? Like they weren't just, at the track. They were there because they were fortunate enough to be able to utilize, the the UNC campus or the track or his mentoring or whatever it was. But then also too, they had to be respectful of the fact that we were student athletes. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, he was very knowledgeable. Like, I mean, just as you know, I mean,
Yeah.
he's Coach Fry.
That's
But
exactly, that's the way to put it. He's Coach Fry. Yeah.
I mean, we were doing a drill. You know, it wasn't just y'all go do the drills, and then he was like, you know, having a conversation. Like he was watching. And sometimes, even if he was watching and he was having a conversation, you know, like he was probably, you know, he was kind of like, wait, if somebody was talking to him, he was like, hold on a second. And then he would like, you know, hey, do that again. You know what I'm saying? So he was just very, very, like what you see is what you get. You know what I mean? Yeah, just a wealth of knowledge.
I'm always amazed. Like, I don't think if I would have kept coaching that for my post collegiate, I don't know that I would have coached post collegiates. Coaching college is super hard, very time consuming. There's a lot of people pulling at you and a lot of different hats to wear. So when I see a coach like a Coach Fry who's, getting it done with his student athletes at the school, but also having, post collegiates who are doing amazing. And then that comes along, there's speaking engagements, there's people that want you to do clinics. I mean, there's always, oh, and by the way, you have a family, outside interest, activities, passions, charities, etc. Was there ever any disadvantage to being coached by Coach Fry? And what I mean by that, not as a diss, like, oh yeah, he sucked, he made us run mile repeats, I don't know, whatever he does, but more of like, I'm thinking like, were there ever times as a college athlete that you felt like, oh man, I wish I'd have had more time with Coach Fry, but he had to go to the Europe for this meet or whatever? That could be a disadvantage.
Yeah, well, and I would say like yes, but only because in my case in our freshman class, you really don't know. It's kind of like and this is something that stayed with me forever, and I've shared this with my athletes. Appreciating people when you have them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that is what that so that is what that's my takeaway from about Coach Fry. And even I would say Coach Craddock too, but like appreciating people for who they are when you have them, when you're close to them. And I'm talking in proximity because my freshman year, in 95 and 96, after the 96 Olympics is when, he gets to get a head coaching job at University of South Carolina. And so, you're around greatness, I mean, and you're around just an icon in the sport. And he was iconic then as well.
Yeah.
But like when he leaves, the father figure that he is, resource that he is, the presence that he is on a campus like UNC in particular. You know what I'm saying? This is obviously before social media and all those types of things. The intentionality and everything. You're like, man, you always think there'll be other coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll be fine. And there are other coaches, but like there's a special one, you know what I'm saying? And so because he was kind of the coach after my high school coach, and I admired him so much. Like you don't tell people, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're young, you don't feel like you got time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're immortal. You get forever.
He's still on this earth, but you feel like I'll tell him later, you know what I'm saying? Or like I'll see you in a year, you know what I'm saying?
It's a great lesson.
And so those are the things that I've taken with me throughout my career, specifically coaching career, is to make sure that I'm very, very intentional about really, really pouring into my athletes.
Yeah.
And I would always say too, like, yes, I'm your coach, but I have a responsibility. Now, I may be the only coach. I doubt it very seriously, but that feels this way. But your parents have entrusted me with your 4 years.
Right.
That means something to me. You know what I'm saying? And I don't take it for granted. And so my job and responsibility is not just to coach you, but to mentor you, to love on you, to encourage you, to be there for you, but also too to prepare you for what's next.
Right.
And having him as a coach, and it only being that, you know what I'm saying, like for a short amount of time in the span of 4 years, it it limited, you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
that from now, granted, he still checked up on us and
Mhm.
all those like things. We saw him at meets and different things like that. But like there's nothing like, because he had his own responsibility and,
Right.
and
Right.
trying to get
Did
South Carolina to where it was.
did you consider transferring?
Yes, I did. I mean, I did, and we had a lot of conversations about that, um, either internally or externally. Again, man, I mean, UNC is a
Yeah.
beautiful place, and it would have been further away from home. Like this, you have a community. School was going well,
Yeah.
and again, at that time, I wasn't even thinking about like you know post collegiate competing or anything like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm just trying to get through freshman year, and I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
trying to prepare for like my sophomore year and different things like that.
Yeah.
And so it worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back on my life, it worked out the way it's supposed to. But
I think that story still happens today in 2026. We like to tell ourselves that, oh, they all transfer.
yeah, yeah,
So they all, I was like, they all don't, by the way. That's
they don't-
maybe
and
a
it works
lot.
and it works out well. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like
right.
they're okay.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's
they're
exactly
okay.
right.
Yep.
Okay. So you graduate with a communications degree.
Yes.
Love that.
Yep.
Uh, but I'm still not here in coaching because,
I got you. I got you.
coach
So
back in high school was like, hey, you need to work in your field, things like that. So you're working
yes,
for Nokia.
yep.
Where are you even still think? Are you still thinking coaching is like, oh yeah, when I get to Nokia and I get established, I'll go volunteer somewhere or back home or whatever.
So I graduate. I'm working for Nokia in Charlotte, right?
Hold on. How
Yep.
cool was that? Like, I just think for you, this would have been like, this is, if you were to list like your top 10 moments of life, how cool was it to graduate from UNC? Was that a
And
cool day?
oh yeah, yeah, it unbelievable, man. Like pictures do not do it justice. Um,
You're
it
you're a
was
natural smiler. I cannot imagine how big of a smile you had that day.
oh my god, man. I had I mean, it was amazing, man. It was amazing.
Love that.
One of the best decisions of my life.
That's
It's in the
awesome.
place, man.
That's
I, we
cool.
all I tell people this, man, like, and a lot of it comes from like the church that we attend and our pastor says, but like, UNC, man, is the best university this side of heaven. Like it is incredible,
That's
man. Like,
awesome, man.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. I love that. I love that. Okay. Sorry. I was just thinking, I was like, wait a minute, this
That's
dude,
all good. I
this was
appreciate
heaven
it.
on earth. I was like, man, I knew that had to be a big day. That's cool. Love that. Okay. You're working for Nokia. Keep us back
Yes.
going there.
Yep. So I work in for Nokia, and things are going well, man. Like I'm getting Southeast rep of the year, different things like that because I'm
Because
my
you're awesome.
but thank you. I'm a Southeast rep. So I'm working for Nokia. I'm living in Charlotte, and I'm living there for 2 years. Then I get an opportunity to I get a promotion so I can move to Atlanta. My wife, who was my girlfriend and my fiance at the time,
Hmm.
she's in medical school and she matches at Emory University. At
Oh,
the same
yeah.
time, like the exact same within a week span, I get a promotion to move to Atlanta. She's graduating from medical school and she matches at Emory. And so we get, we're moving to Atlanta and we're
Wow.
in Atlanta. And while I'm in Atlanta, man, and I can't continue to do the things I'm doing, she's in residency. I'm in corporate America, man, and the grind is just it's weighing on me. I'm like, man, like this is, and so here's the thing. It's all gonna make sense. When I'm telling people that I ran track and I'm an athlete and they see me, I'm a resume and all that stuff. And every opportunity I go for a promotion or like, to get a job, every single time I go there, man, like they're asking me, I'm telling them, why do you want to, why do you want to take this job? And they say, and I tell them, and they're like, I thought you want to be a track coach. I'm like, I never said anything about being a track coach, but because they see the passion when I'm talking about track,
Wow.
all this type of things, they're like, don't you want to be a track? Somebody told me you want to be a track coach. And I'm like, man, like who is telling people I want to be a track coach? And so this is I'm talking about like there's like a year and a half span, man, where I'm like, getting, I'm going to conventions, different things like that for our job for Nokia. people are meeting me and I'm telling them, what'd you do? Are you an athlete? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm sharing with them. And I guess I'm speaking, man. I'm so passionate about track and all that stuff, but I never, ever, ever say anything about being a track coach. And so when I'm like, man, corporate America is just not for me. And there was one of my coworkers in Atlanta. She worked in our business office. She is she's a coach. She has her own track program out of the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta, and she ran track too. And so she said, "Hey," she said, "Kenneth," she said, "Hey, you ran track at UNC. Like, you ever thought about coming over and helping us or volunteer? We always need coaches." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I go out there and I'm just trying to mentor them, and I'm trying to just be an
Because
extra
this is the
person.
path you've seen. Like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm working for Nokia and I
yeah,
go
man.
help out. Yeah, I go
Like,
coach by helping out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
perfect. And so I do that. And seriously, man, so she finds out from her husband that she's pregnant. So she's pregnant. I'm out there helping her, man. This obviously goes on for, I say like 3 or 4 or 5 months. And we go to regionals. Regionals is going great. We go to nationals, and nationals, the USATF national championship, man, is in Oregon, in Eugene, Oregon.
Nice.
And she's like, "Hey, you're doing a great job. All the parents love you." She was like, "The doctor says that I can't
Yeah, I'm
travel."
pregnant. I can't go to West Coast. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, man! So you want me to take all these kids with me to Oregon? Doc, you know the grind. You got to fly in, man, to Portland." And then I'm like, "Oh my God!" So I was like, "Well, I mean," she's like, "Nobody else can do it. They love you. The parents said they'll travel. You don't have to pay for anything. Like, we'll raise the money, all stuff." I was like, "Okay." So I do it. And when I'm out there, man, in Oregon, I mean, it's Oregon, right? It's Tracktown, USA, man. So I'm like, I mean, this is amazing, amazing experience. Um, I could, probably do. At my age at the time, I'm like, man, like this is a lot of work, obviously, to be, with these kids. But it was so gratifying though, because again, like I was managing at the time. You know what I mean? I was managing the team, and Lord knows, I mean, I think we had maybe 15 kids, maybe. So it was just a lot of moving parts. But again, like I'm like, man, okay, like I think I could probably do this, but I'm just waiting for her to kind of have the baby and then get back. You know what I'm saying? So I can kind of
It's
relieve.
temporary, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we go to Oregon, man. We have a great time. Um, love the experience. I mean, to be able to go to go to Eugene. We come back from Atlanta, and at that time, man, I'm like, you know what? I think I might be able to try to start looking at track coach positions. Right? We don't have kids. My wife and I don't have kids, and I'm like, man. So I left. So I left Nokia. And it was one of those, man, like my neighbor across the street, when we were in Atlanta, he tells me this all the time, man, when you see stuff on social media. I'm walking into the mailbox, and he's walking to the mailbox because our houses are like right here. And I'm like, man, I said, man, I'm gonna quit my job, man. I'm gonna go into coaching. He was like, oh man, like, that's I mean, he's like,
That's crazy.
yeah, like I mean, it's gonna work out. Because again, I'm going back to like I know track coaches. We're not really ready to leave Atlanta at the time,
Right.
but like I know enough people where I can like maybe I can do this, maybe I can do a part time or something at a middle school or high school, and so again, my wife's at Emory. I'm working out. I've got because I'm a spouse. I've got opportunity to use their facility. And so while I'm at the facility working out one day, I'm unemployed and everything. I see one of the athletes.
Hold on. You quit your full-time Nokia job without
Yes,
having something lined up?
yes, yes,
That
yes, yes,
shocks me
yes,
because that
man.
is one of the most unintelligent things to do.
Yeah,
What are in the world?
man. Well, but the thing is though, like again, man, like I knew, I knew that the way I was going with the job and the changes and all those types of things, that I could not continue in the way that I was. I mean, like
Okay, all
that's
right.
I'm not talking about. It wasn't that's like a toxic thing. I wasn't like being verbally abused or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah.
was young enough, in my life and my career and all those types of things where, I mean, now I was married, so I didn't have I was just going to be kicking it, I mean, I was going to be working part-time. I was going to find something, but yeah, I mean, my wife supported me, but she was supporting me in terms of yes, okay, you're going to do this,
Right.
but not from the perspective of you're just going to be at the house, you know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah, yeah. The what didn't quit is the house bill, the grocery bill, the gas bill. That
yes.
didn't quit. Yeah, yeah. Okay, you're at Emory. That's amazing. I did not know that, bro.
So
That is either an amazing leap of faith or, like I said, the most dumbest thing in the world you can do. We'll find out. It's probably somewhere in the middle. We'll
yeah.
keep going. All right.
So I'm there, and I see one of the kids with a track T-shirt on, and again, at this time I didn't know that they had track as a collegiate sport. I mean, I thought it was maybe they had a track on campus, like a physical track, but I didn't know that they had this as a sport.
Right.
So I talked to this kid. He introduced me to the strength and conditioning coach at Emory, and Steve Lewis is his name. Me and Steve hit it off, and he's like, man, I don't know about track. He said, but I could use an assistant coach, strength and conditioning assistant coach to do their off-season conditioning. I'm like, perfect, man. Good. And he's like, well, I don't have a lot, but we can work on a stipend. And I was like, man, Steve, I just want an opportunity, man, just to get my foot in the door. You know what I mean? I don't, I just went head first into that, man. Again, no kids, nothing like that. I mean, we could just. So anyway, I did that for probably about. It was the off season, so I mean, it was 6 months or so. But while I was there, I was working with women's basketball, soccer, women's tennis, men's basketball, and then those are the 4 sports that I had. And he pretty much just let me, hey, we talked about the workouts and stuff like that, but you run there all season. And so I did that. The kids on the teams, we kept talking about, hey, man, I got a friend of mine who's on a track team, and I think they were well, and they needed a track coach, and so, I mean, I put my name out there, to be the assistant coach at Emory. They end up hiring somebody else for the job, but I was late in the process because I just didn't know internally. That person, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. I think they took the job and didn't end up. Anyway, it just didn't work out, and so they had a vacancy. And Steve talked to the track coach at Emory. And again, man, they brought me in for an interview. I was already connected to, some of the coaches that could vouch for me. And then, man, they hired me as the assistant track coach for sprints. Yeah, I was the sprints and jumps coach at Emory.
What a great example of putting yourself in positions that will pay dividends in the future. That's really amazing, Kenneth. I mean, I also love the humility of well, I ran at UNC, they should have hired me, or the XYZ university should hire, there's humility of all right, I know I'm new to this game, so I got to figure it out. No, you want to pay me a stipend? All right, that's cool, man. I just want to be around and have the opportunity. So I love that story of humility and a little bit of persistence in there as well. Because, they hire someone else. That's a easy point for you to jump off and be like, all right, I give up. Whatever, I'm right here, and they won't even hire. So that's really interesting. So now that you are, full time, I shouldn't even done that. You are full time.
Yeah. Well, you did it right, man. Especially
from the paycheck, I'm sure. Yeah. What are you doing? You're such a preparer. My experience with you. What are you doing now that okay, I'm entrusted with these kids? I'm gonna call it year round. I know there's off seasons and times like that. What are you doing I'm gonna call it coaching education, but that might be a little early for this. But I think of coaching education kind of 2 ways: formal and informal. Both are extremely important. Formal being our USATF level 1s, level 2s, USTFCA, ALTIS, things like that. Unofficial is more oh, I called up Coach Fry and was like, all right, Coach Fry, I got what I wanted. I need help. I got to get it done. What did you do when you first got okay, you're the man. You're going to be sprints and jumps.
So because obviously my family is still in North Carolina. My wife's family, she's from Raleigh, so she went to UNC.
Nice.
for undergrad and for medical school as well. So yes, that's what I do. I go back to Chapel Hill and I talk to the coaches. I'm sitting down in Coach Craddock's office. I'm like, hey, coach, I'm now the assistant coach there. I'm talking to, he's allowing me to go out to practice. Because at that time, obviously, I'm going during the holidays, so Thanksgiving, Christmas. My wife and I, we're like, newlyweds, so like we going home all the time during those years. But I become a sponge, man. Like instead of trying to think about
Well,
and
hold on. I want to correct you there a little bit. I don't think you became a sponge. That you have been a sponge. So you continue to do things that have worked for you your whole life. So just small correction. You didn't become a sponge.
I
You
appreciate it.
use that skill set of being that sponge and that
I
learner.
appreciate it. Well, but yeah, but yeah, to your point, I'm reaching out to uh, my coaches. Yes, I'm calling Coach Fry, talking to Coach Craddock, talking to, coaches that I just admire, I have admired, club coaches. I mean, different things like that. Man, I'm like really kind of leaning in and not assuming that just because I ran at UNC and I was around some great coaches that I know it all. I'm staying in my lane, literally and figuratively, staying in my lane and just trying to make sure that I'm the best assistant coach that I possibly can be. Learning what it's like to coach athletes who also have more pressing issues, like a biology exam the next morning. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm flexible, but I'm learning like the balance between, you know, coaching them and loving them, being prepared and also like, not making sure I don't overtrain them. Um, serving in a role where, coaching is one thing, but also you have the administrative side of things. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, Emory's Division 3, which I had learned because I didn't even know
Yeah,
what
you
Division
didn't even know what it
was.
was, right? Mhm.
But like, have amazing facilities, and then also our other responsibilities with like we had part of our job is we had building supervisor position, responsibilities, um, and that was pretty common for most assistant
What what
coaches.
what does that mean?
You know,
Like you had to lock up a building and open it up?
center, the rec center, yeah, swimming pool, they had, but yeah, we had to make sure that, working games,
Huh.
there were soccer games, basketball games. So yeah, like, event management type
Wow.
responsibilities as well. So yeah, so all those types of things. So we had to balance all of that while still making sure that our athletes competed, and recruiting, like all those types of things. Um, and so I'm thrilled that I got a chance to be able to do that during that time of my life. Young, so I could relate to, the student athletes, and then also too because of Division 3, right, no scholarships. So now I am having an opportunity to experience recruiting these kids, understand it from an academic standpoint, where they're going to be academically. Emory's not an easy school to get into, but then also how can they be successful? And so I'm able to, reflect on my why in terms of like why did I go to college? I want there obviously to run track, but like also I want to get a great education so I can relate to these kids who are like student first, athlete second. And it was great for me. I mean, a lot of my, some of my closest friends, and also first couple of student athletes, they came from that Emory experience,
Hmm.
that I will forever be grateful because, um, again, it gave me my first opportunity, what I'm saying, to like coach professionally, which I value.
How did you like every school? I I always push back. I just asked like three questions in a row right there. I always push back. There's some coaches that will say, I'm such a good recruiter because of how I relate to young people and because of how I can communicate, how we train, things like that, that no matter what school I'm at, I will be successful recruiting. And that's not true in my belief because every
Right.
school is different, right? Like you're expressing a little bit difference of like Emory and UNC using those two examples. So I think, every school has like the ideal customer, like, oh, the ideal student looks like this. Test score typically maybe comes from our region. Ideally they're a legacy, a parent or a family member went to school here, those kind of things. But you're also a competitor, Kenneth. How
Yes.
did you learn and this is a big generalization because there are certainly outliers, but in general, uh, Emory is going to, we'll use the 100-meter dash as an example. Emory is going to recruit a different type of 100-meter dash person than UNC is, meaning maybe UNC was going, by the way, UNC is not recruiting the same 100-meter dash person as University of Texas, University of Florida either. And they're in the same division, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you, how, how, and maybe you didn't, but how did you not go in Emory and go, oh, okay, I got to recruit? Cool. Who's the top kid in Georgia? Oh, he ran 10-10. I'm going to
Yeah.
call him and be like, yeah, bro, unless like maybe there are outliers, but Emory is probably your probability of getting a 10-10 at Emory is a lot less than maybe a Texas or whatever. Did you instinctively know that? And if not, because first of all, if you did, how in the world did you instinctively know that? Because you're a competitor. How did you learn, like, oh, this is the type of kid I'm going to have more success recruiting at Emory?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that first of all, the process was very humbling because you look at it, you're like, I mean, it's Emory. Like, of course, people want to come to Emory, and they did. Not everyone can get into Emory. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, oh man, Emory is cool. What does it take? What kind of test score do I need to have? And I'm like,
It starts with a
yeah,
3.
yeah, start. Um, you know, but what I did, like, I started looking at, and this is how I learned about, because again, I didn't know anything about Division III.
Right.
So I literally I was talking to one of the coaches just this past weekend about this. So like, I'm at Emory, and I'm like, I'm thinking, man, like, okay, what schools do we compete against? So I'm looking at it, I'm going on the internet, I'm looking, and I'm like, man, like, I don't recognize any of these schools in our conference. I mean, but there's some incredible schools. But I didn't know about, like, growing up in North Carolina. I didn't know about WashU,
Right.
Rand,
Right. Yeah.
Ellen. I mean, I heard about NYU, but like, I'm like, man, like, wait. And then I'm like, we're in a UAA conference. I'm like, what is the UAA? I know about ACC and SEC, but like, what? And so then I'm looking at the times. So what I do is I go to the conference championships, and I'm looking at the times. And so to answer your question, I'm like, okay, wow, like, these are the indoor and outdoor times that they're running. Man, like, if we get a guy that comes in, so we get a 10-2 guy, and this dude would like automatically
Light
go
it
to
up. Yeah.
yeah. However, like, I'm looking at trends too. So I'm looking at, like, I'm talking to our distance coaches, I'm talking to our throws coaches. I'm like, man, like, where y'all looking at guys, where y'all
Mhm.
recruiting from? So they would talk to us about it, and they would talk to me about the GPA and the test scores. And they say, man, like, you can get this kid, that'd be great. But the reality is this kid has, he's looking at a different school. So, it'd be flattering if he comes on a visit or whatever. But like 9 times out of 10, you'll be best served with focusing on these schools, or like these coaches, or like this, this time. And so that really kind of prepared me for, we all want, the 10-2, 10-3 guy that comes out of, high school already running it. Um, but the reality is that we were in a position where, or we were in a situation where we needed to get kids who uh, did not run those times, right? But were uh, excited about the experience of being able to
Mhm.
compete collegiately and have a healthy balance. Because if not, they might come and they might stay for that first year, but they're going to be gone. You know what I mean? And it really became about building them up, like developing the development side of coaching.
Yeah.
It's really kind of not putting the cart before the horse, but like, really and truthfully, if you build it, they will come.
Hmm.
If you get kids that come in that you believe, that they believe in you, you believe in them, and they understand that you have their best interests at heart.
Hmm.
Like, they are your 10-2 guy, although they might be running 11-2.
Right.
That you've helped them, you've given them an opportunity that all these other coaches, all these other programs have dismissed and not given them. But you have the confidence that if you can put them in the right environment and sit them around the right culture, and love on them and give them everything, all the tools they need to be successful, that person, which obviously in my experience has been the 4-time conference champion, the school record holder, All-American, the graduate, with honors, and is sold out, for the program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I learned through that experience of looking at that, because I was like, man, hold on, like you can run these times and still be a collegiate athlete. You know what I'm saying? But yes, you can. You know, in this type of model. And oh, by the way, they are incredible students who will will be all in. You know what I'm saying, for your program. So that's how I learned.
I love that. You know, when we first get into coaching, we typically coach how we were coached because we don't know anything else. So when you go to, you know, a UNC grad and you go into Coach Emory, you're like, well, okay, I only know what it takes to score in the ACC and to go to nationals. So let's look there. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, that's not an Emory kid in bulk, you know, because again, you only have so much time and energy to recruit and, by the way, do all these other things that you have to do. I want to speed us up here just a little bit real quick. How many years at Emory?
So I was there. Like so it was like a year and a half. So I was there for the strength and conditioning coach for half a year, and then into the 2006 2007 season is where I was at Emory.
And where do we go next?
So yeah, so we're there, and 06 07, I get an opportunity to coach for a club. So Sprint Athletics is the club I get a chance to coach in Atlanta. I coach there. I also get my at the time it's called the authorized representative certification or license to be an agent, because I aspired at the time. I'm like, man, you know, I can coach collegiately. I can also coach some athletes because I'm in Atlanta, coming out of you know, everything that all the track presence in Atlanta. I get a chance to coach, but then also I realized that, like, man, like, you know, somebody was like, man, look, you know, they don't have, you know, agents are not what we want them to be. So I'm trying to use very
You're doing great.
And so I do that. So I'm doing that, and so that's 2007, like 2007. And but at that time, because I did not get, because my my collegiate coaching career was not as long as I wanted it to be. I started really kind of thinking about all the opportunities that I didn't have while I was at Emory in terms of education, you know, so continue education. So I'm in the club scene, and a lot of the clubs would sponsor continuing education. So I'd already gone through USATF. Matter of fact, I flew out to Hawaii. You know, I just invested in myself, flew out to Hawaii, got the agent. I studied for everything and got the agent license. So that was us leading up to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And while I'm in Atlanta, still doing all of that, I am at the level 1 training at McEachern High School. I'm at McEachern High School, and it's seriously, man, I can't make this up. So I'm at McEachern High School, and I'm sitting at a table, and at the table is Lars Porter is at the table, and you know, just making small talk and everything. Where did you go to school and all that stuff? And I'm telling him, went to UNC, previously coached at Emory. So again, D1, D3. You know, lo and behold, Birmingham Southern has just made an announcement that they were adding track and field. And his head is spinning. I didn't know this because I didn't even know who he was. His head is spinning. And he's like, man, like, you know, we need to talk. We need to talk. Like, I'm at Birmingham Southern. I'm like, okay, whatever. He gives me his card. I give him mine, right? I scratch out, like, you know, Emory and all that stuff. And I give him my card. And we don't talk at all, man. We don't talk. Like, I mean, you know how it is. You get people's cards, and sometimes you just don't. I misplaced this card. I mean, I liked them, but I mean, I didn't think anything of it. So I'm thinking, man, like, hey, I'm gonna get this certification. I'm good to go. Well, we don't talk for a couple of months, and my wife and I decide, 'cause she finishes her residency, the 2008. You know, we went to, I was able to go to the Olympic trials back in Eugene, Oregon. I represented a couple of athletes for that, and none of the athletes qualified for the Olympics, but I had a great experience. And the week after I get back from the Olympic trials, I get a call, you know, from one of my buddies, is telling me there's a coaching position in North Carolina. in a school in North Carolina. I
Hmm.
can't talk about which one it is,
Yeah.
but but I interviewed for that job. The coach offers me the job. I know, I mean, see, it wasn't like me hearing it. Offered me the job. We're at a restaurant, myself, my wife, the coach, and our 1-year-old daughter. She's not even one at the time, and he offers me the job. So I take the job. My wife accepts the job in Charlotte. We get back to Atlanta because we're, kind of getting our things together and all that stuff, preparing to move back to North Carolina. And about a week goes by, and I hear nothing from the coach at all. I'm like, man, okay, I'm supposed to start. Lo and behold, man, he reneges on the offer. He hires a coach who was in the Olympic trials, and he's a little bit younger. I mean, it's not like I'm like 40 years old, but like he hires him, reneges on the offer. So now I don't have a job at all. My wife is in a contract, medical contract, in Charlotte, and I'm sitting on the porch. I'm sitting on the porch of one of our friends' house because we sold our house and everything. And my phone rings, man, and Lars calls, and he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you, man, about Birmingham Southern." I was like, "Okay." He says, "I want you to come down and help me build a program at Birmingham Southern." I'm like, "Man, like this is moving in a different direction because I am not moving to Birmingham. My wife is in Charlotte."
Right.
Well, you're married, so she says, "Hey, after a long conversation and all that stuff, and I come down for a visit, and I visit the school and all that stuff. I go back to Atlanta. I'm telling her about it. Man, it's an awesome experience." And she said, "Well, we're not moving to Birmingham." And so I called Lars. I'm like, "Man, like I don't know, man." And my wife hears like just how much I want this, and I'm telling, man, like and seriously, this was like another leap of faith. I said, like, God is calling me to move to Birmingham to be the assistant coach at Birmingham Southern. So she allows me. She says, 1 year, get it out your system, because she's gonna be in Charlotte. My mother-in-law retired, so she can help with our
I say with the daughter. Yeah. Right.
and she said 1 year, get out your system. 1 year, get out your system, and then move back to North Carolina. I come down to Birmingham. It's incredible experience, man. Like I'm free. I'm not out of the hustle and bustle of Atlanta. I'm feeling valued, man. Like Lars, man. Like he's awesome. And then we have a very, very solid, what I'm saying, first season.
Mm-hmm.
After the first season, man, I think it was in the fall of after that. Like it was the second fall that I spent in Birmingham. He called me in his office one day, and he's like, "Hey, man, sit down." I sat down, and I'm looking at his face. I'm like, "Man, like something's
Thumbs up
different about him." And he said, "Kenneth," he said, "Man, I've been called to the ministry." And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, like, what in the world does that have to do with me? And he said, "Yeah," he said, and so God only calls you certain many times, and he had already called him to the ministry, I think, a couple of times prior to me being in Birmingham. And he said, "I've already talked to administration, and we want to make you head coach at Birmingham Southern." I was like, "What?" Because I'm getting ready to get out of here, man. I told him like a year, and I'm out. And so yeah, man. Like again, leap of faith, and I become the head track coach at Birmingham Southern.
What did the wife say about that?
And she was hot. Like she was on this call. If she was on the podcast, she would tell you too. Like, but she prayed. But her prayers was, "Please, God, have him leave Birmingham.
Get his butt up here in North Carolina."
Yeah, man. And I mean, and it was it was tough. But I think the biggest thing I learned about that was it grew us closer together, because when I would fly to Charlotte or she would fly to Birmingham, we were intentional about working on our relationship. Like all the things we're going to do when we get back together, like when we living in the same space.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
What kind of life that we want to live. And so when I got the head coach position after that first year, she was like, "Okay, God, I'm I'm gonna basically I give up. I'm saying I'm gonna stop fighting." And she moved to Birmingham, her and our 1-year-old daughter, and it's been one of the greatest experiences, I'm saying, of my life, in terms of seeing that happen.
How long did y'all live separately?
So we would for like a year. I mean, maybe
Wow.
Yeah,
Dude, that's
yeah,
I hate it for our coaches that go through that,
yeah, man.
and for you as well. And I love when something positive comes from it. But man,
Yeah,
that's a story that I hear unfortunately all too often. It's when you start coaching college. If you start coaching high school, well, there's 100 high schools in Atlanta, there's 100 high schools in Charlotte and things like that. Like you could go to other places if you need to. When you start coaching college, it's like, man, that next opportunity might be 3 states away. That's not uncommon. There's only so many. There's roughly 1,500 college programs. There's over 15,000 high school programs. So you're a 10 to 1 dog on this thing on where you potentially could go. So I just when someone shares that story of like, yeah, my family's going to stay back or they're going to go here, will I go here? It's like, oh man, I hate that because this is, and I know you're not doing it intentionally to leave the family
no,
because you're working for the greater good, but oh my gosh, that's so hard. And I'm glad your daughter was one, less than one, not
yes,
13. It's just so hard, man, so hard.
absolutely.
All right, you're at Birmingham Southern. So this is where we meet because you
Yes,
talk about coaching
exactly.
education. You host a level one. I'm going to give you some insight into the kind of person Mr. Cox here is. Coach Cox here is. So he hosts a level one there at Birmingham Southern. This is back when I was teaching level ones throughout the country, and so he invites me down to be the sprint hurdles guy. I'm sure it was the sprint hurdles, maybe jumps, but whatever. And he's so Kenneth is so concerned about the other person. Like that's just, this is the kind of guy I'd want my kids to be coached by because I know that coach would care for my kids. So he says, as I'm coming down, he's like, is there anything you want or need or whatever? And I was like, nah, man, I'm just looking forward to come, I'm from Alabama and I'm living here in Illinois. I was like, I'm just looking forward to coming down, getting some sweet tea, Milos. And I just, I just love being in the area, man. He picks me up from the airport and he has a gallon of Milo's sweet tea for me. I was like, what are you doing? You're like, well, you said you wanted some sweet tea. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like a cup of sweet or something. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did. But that's the kind of person you are. That's really the only reason I wanted you on the show. I was like, I just wanted to tell the Milo sweet tea story and give a shout out to Milo's because it is one of the best sweet teas out there. But okay,
Salute,
so
salute.
how many years at Birmingham Southern?
16 years from start to finish, man.
And
16.
because again, I got to for time. I want to fast forward a little
Yeah,
bit. So you're head coach. You're a super young head coach. You have zero experience. I say zero, but you know what I
yeah,
mean. You have
yeah,
really no experience in here. So you had to grow as a coach while
yeah,
also being the head coach, which has a
yeah.
lot of hats that we've talked about a lot here on the podcast. Before we get to the next step, talk to us about those 16 years. What I want to know is how from year one to year 16, how did
Mhm.
you grow as a
Yeah,
head coach, not as a track coach? I'm not
yes,
talking about coaching education here.
yeah.
How did you grow to become a better head coach at year
Mhm.
16 than you were when you first got the gig in year
Yeah.
one?
Because my foundation was in terms of coaching, was level one. And a lot of coaches that man, like that's it was kind of like a fraternity. Like, so I went to all the level twos I could go to. You know what I'm saying? I went to sprints, hurdles, jumps. I went to distance. I went to, throws. Um, I had combined events. I certified to teach, level twos. And I was, at one point I was working on, becoming an 11-3 instructor. In order to do it right, man, like it's one thing to say, oh, I ran for this particular school. I know, so and so is my mentor, but also too, like to make sure that that I've done the work. You know what I mean? Like that what I'm teaching, what I'm talking about, what I'm sharing, what I'm encouraging everybody else to do. You have to walk the walk in order to talk the talk. And so that was my investment. So every summer, like it was important. I was intentional to tell, my athletic director, like what I was going to be doing for that summer was continuing education.
Hmm.
Because again, I
Well,
recognize right now.
hold
Go ahead.
on. So let me interrupt a little bit here. So that's great, coaching education. So you learned how to become a better. I love how you diversified. You weren't going to try to become only the best sprints, hurdles guy. The guy took distance and combined event. Like you were going to become a well-rounded coach, and that's our uh, overall more effective coaches are the ones that if they can't coach all the events, they at least understand all the
Yeah.
events. That's great. But what we have certainly learned over nearly 400 episodes here is that the X's and O's are actually probably one of the easier parts of coaching.
Yeah.
Now I know there's somebody out there going, "Oh, you know how to get someone from 10 flat to 9 flat? That's hard." Yeah, okay, I get it. It's all the other aspects. So
Mhm.
relationships with the kids, getting them to believe that you believe in them and vice versa. It's administrative tasks. That's what I want to know of year 16, Kenneth, versus year one.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you become a better, well-rounded head coach? Not how you became a better X's and O's coach. I
No,
know
I understand.
you did good there. I want to know, how did you lead a staff? How did you work within your administration, etc.? How
Yep.
did you
Yep.
run the
Well,
program?
yeah. So while attending these level twos and all those
Mhm.
types of things, um, I realized that, like, for me, yes, like being in the room and understand that, but also like talking to coaches so that I could uh, better help curate the proper coaching staff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
what are we
Mhm.
looking for? Where do I need to be doing? And then going to successful coaches. Again, like they didn't have to always be at UNC and South Carolina, but like, some of my mentors, man, are like, talking to people who are currently at like Harvard, you know what I mean? Or like at Texas Tech now, or at Clemson, or just different places like that that were younger head coaches at the time. But letting them know, man, like being vulnerable and saying, "Hey, look, I'm a young coach. I want to learn. I need a mentor. How did you get into the game? How do you recruit on a Division III level? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, if you don't have a coach in that particular field, like what do you do? Like, what kind of, how do you hold them accountable? So
Mhm.
again, like being relationship driven. Like I love people, man. I do. So talking to people, shadowing them. We didn't always go to national championships. I mean, we weren't eligible for nationals until like 2012
That's right.
because of the transition. So during that time, I was visiting schools, walking around, seeing how they run practices. Like seeing how they, might have, handled something in their office. You know what I mean? Like, what are their office hours? Like, how do they balance,
Right.
cooking and their wives and all those types of things? And so again, like going back to just who I am and like what's most important to me, um, I wanted to be that kind of coach because I recognized that yes, I hadn't, you know, coached for 30 years, you know what I'm saying, prior to having my first head coach job. And so I wanted to make sure I got that right because I knew, again, if I can put things together when this thing really starts rocking and rolling, like then I won't have time to go back and be like, man, like how do I take care of the administrative side of things? Same thing like Lars, he was a great mentor for me because he helped start the track program. He was one of the cross country coaches before they added track and field. So a lot of the things that he had to do in order to prepare himself to get ready for adding track was a lot of administrative type stuff. So I mean, again, I asked him a ton of questions, man,
Yeah.
and God's grace, I didn't have like my wife and a 1 year old for that 1 year or that 13, 14 months. So I mean, I was asking a whole like lot of questions because I wanted to get it right, and I also didn't want to waste the opportunity God had given me to be this far away from home, being in North Carolina, and then I have nothing at all to show for it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it was so yeah, again, that's kind of how
Yeah.
I formed, saying it's 16 years, and just surrounding myself with people who were smarter than me.
Yeah.
Like just because you're a head coach don't mean you know everything. Having some seasoned assistant coaches, that coached in high school for years. You know what I'm saying? Like Coach Birdwell. You know what I mean? That like she did everything, wrote the fucking book probably. You know, so just making sure that I just kind of leaned into those types of investments and being intentional about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Mary Birdwell's name. Loved her to death, and she's been doing it. She did it for so long. I think when she first wrote her, track rule book, track philosophy, I think it was on stone tablets. I mean, she's been doing it for a long time. I loved her to death. Um, yeah, I heard something recently about like someone with 30 years of experience. Do you have 30 years of experience, or do you have 1 year of experience 30 times? There's one of them is growth, and the other one is being stubborn and doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting other people to adapt. And especially in track or in coaching, I should say, you've got new people all the stinking time. Every 4 years, it's a whole new crop of 18-year-olds, and you've got to figure out how to adapt. So you're doing an amazing job. You nailed the hammer on the head, hammered the nail on the head. You did something. You said it right when you said about who you surrounded yourself with, and you again you show a lot of humility of being called someone and say, "Hey man, I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. Can you help me out?" And so well prepared, and you had some amazing teams, and again you surrounded yourself with amazing people. Through all of that, though, there's the next step that happens. No one can prepare you for. No one, air quotes, no one has gone through this. Luckily, it's a very small fraternity. So it's one thing when a program gets dropped. That's terrible. I hate it.
Yeah.
I wish it never would happen. I wish it would never happen again. It's a whole nother thing when your school closes down, sir. That's who the frick does that, man. No one does that. Again, it does happen very, very infrequently. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
How do you handle, like, how did you hear the news? How did you
Yeah.
handle it? What do you do? Who do you call for that, Kenneth?
I so I was the uh throughout the 16 years, and I would say the 12 years of my 16 at Birmingham Southern, uh, and 14 years. I was a part of. I went to convention every year. I was, you know, uh, regional rep, then I was
Right.
vice president,
That's right.
and president, and so in 22, I guess it was, I was on a plane, getting on the plane, leaving convention, and my boss had called me, my AD had called me and said, "Hey, there's some stuff going on. You're gonna hear about when you land, but just wanted to prepare you that there's some stuff that's going on that we're hearing some stuff in the news." And because I was at convention, I wasn't privy. I wasn't on campus for
Right.
some of those meetings. And so I get back, and my phone is blowing up. Like, people is send me snippets of stuff on the newspaper, or on TV, and I'm like, man, like, this is crazy. Like, how could this happen? Like, and so yeah, it was incredible because it was a 2 year. Well, from the time we found out about it until it ended, it was a 2 year process. Um, but like, I just really, I really try to focus on what I could control. Like, again, I had been here 14 years at that time, and these kids depend on me, and they invested in the institution, and they want to get a degree. So like, I went straight to like the kids, like the athletes, man. Like, man, like, I can't really focus on, like, you know, what I think right now. It's got to be making sure that, like, these kids, man, understand that, like, I'm here for them, and that's based off of relationships, and also too, like, how would I want my coach to
Hmm.
feel, like, yeah, there was some that, like, man, flight or fight, like, I'm out of here,
Yeah.
but I'm like, we don't have all the facts, I mean, and so if there is a chance, and I'm a believer, so, like, God can change anything around. I mean, we had just went through COVID 2020, you know what I'm saying? So, like, we made it out of that, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
like, we gonna be able to make it out of this. And so I continue to encourage them. I continue to, be encouragement for myself. I made sure that I did what all I need to do in terms from a financial standpoint, making sure that our numbers look like they were supposed to. Um, and I just said, man, like, if they didn't say it was going to close, they said it's a chance it's going to close. So we've got to kind of just, we've got to, lean in, man, and just do what we got to do. We cut corners, cut budget. I mean, we just had to do it. And
Yeah.
so, um, but it was tense. It really
Mm.
was, because you never knew when the next, report would come out. Um, but but I will say this again, man, like in 2017, 2018, um, I really felt like there was going to be a shift in my career. I didn't like not enjoy coaching, because I still did, but I knew that, like, man, like, God is calling me to something else. And
Mm.
and so in this building, seriously, man, you asked that question. We had this in this building. So we have the track, we have the CrossPlex, or the track is, we have an auditorium, and then we also have Bill Harris Arena. in 2017 at the swimming championships, someone had stopped me. And he was in college athletics, and he said, "You're going to be a director one day." And I thought he was talking to somebody else. I was like, and man, like God works in mysterious ways, man. Like people speak over your life. I mean, you can either receive it or you can just like dismiss it. And it challenged me because I was like, I'm a very talented coach. Like, is he thinking that I'm not cut out for this or like whatever?
Right.
And so I inquired. Like the Bible says, man, like you should inquire. Like I inquired of God, and I also started asking, him these questions. And he said, you are humble when you win. And he said, and when you lose, which is, not too often, he said, but like you're even more gracious when you lose. And he said, and I've been asking people all over the country about you because I didn't know about you. And everybody's giving you glowing reviews. And he said, so this is something you should think about. And at the time I had not, I kept giving excuses why I wouldn't go get my MBA and all that stuff. And so I, during COVID, when everything shut down, I went and got my MBA.
Yeah.
Because our pastor said, man, he said this. He said, if you come out of COVID the same way that you go into it, you've missed it. And so I know, like, you obviously asked me about the school closing, but it was all part of it because when we got the word 2 years goes by and it's going to stay open and all that stuff, there was a peace that came over me. I had been promoted to associate AD in 2020. So for the last 4 years, I was also I was associate AD and track and field coach. So God was already preparing me, man, for like what's next, because I had to start thinking about things from an administrative side of things.
Right.
I started being invited into rooms that I never imagined, which is NCAA. I went through the Leadership Institute. I was one of the few coaches that was also like an administrator. But I started seeing athletics differently. Like before I was seeing it as an athlete, and I was seeing it as a coach. I got a chance to see it as an administrator, all the while being president of USTFCCCA. And so God was pushing me already, saying, "Hey man, like you ain't gonna be here long." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm not doing a good job." He said, "No, but I got something else for you." And so when it closed again, people were like, "You're not worried?" And like, I was here for a year and my wife wasn't here. God moved. I was here, what I'm saying, like when the school was going, what I'm saying, like, I'm sorry, when COVID hit and God spared my life, but he also too provided the world to stop and slow down for me to do something that I always had an excuse why I wouldn't do. I'm from Fuquay Varina, North Carolina, man, with a degree, undergraduate degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I am not here because I was an Olympian or All-American. You know what I'm saying? Now I can't say I'm an All-American coach, but I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm out on the record books at UNC. But I understand, man, that like all the coaching and all the things that he's sending me around prepared me for what's next. So when the school closed, like I was like, man, like it's gonna be okay. Like I don't know how it's gonna be okay. I mean, at that time now we have 3 kids, so I've gone through stuff. But like, now some people ask, well, you gotta be prepared to move. And I got 3 kids. Like we weren't prepared to move right now. My wife's a physician. My daughter was a junior in high school and would be a senior. God wasn't telling me, like he told me a whole lot. And then when we get to the school closing, I'm supposed to start listening to man.
Right.
So I was like, move, but what he was telling me was through them, like, I want you to be willing to move when I tell you to. And it may not be geographically, but it might be spiritually, it might be mentally, you know what I'm saying? It might be like, you got to change, what I'm saying, your focus and your mindset. And so I needed it. Like, I don't celebrate Birmingham Southern closing at all. But if Birmingham Southern doesn't close, I don't move into what God has for me next. You know what I'm saying? Which is this, like, which is all those types of things. And so in all of that, like I started leaning into the things that I have a passion for, and I got excited about, man, like, I guess I can now be in administration full time instead of, and you know this, man, like in coaching, you're always thinking about the next class that you recruit, and I'm gonna stay there for 4 years for them. And then the next class I recruit, you know, stay there for them.
Right.
Now you 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, 16, you know what I'm saying? And we always do that. And so what I also learned was here was an opportunity for me to invest in me, to bet on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I needed that because otherwise I would have continued to stay as a successful coach. Hey, I mean, like by God's grace, man, I got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2024. So like, you know, and that was also God's way of saying, you know what I'm saying? Well,
Interesting.
you came here for 16 years, but when you didn't know anybody. Now after 16 years, man, like you know, we went from 2012 to 2024. We went to 12. Mike, you know how it is, man, just to go to 12 straight indoor and outdoor national championships, never missing a single one, indoor and outdoor, whether it was one athlete or it was like 8. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, he kept me through all of that. All the times I went to a track meet to recruit at a national meet somewhere, and I said, "Hey, I'm with Birmingham Southern," and people were like, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, you know, it's in Birmingham. You know, y'all have a track program. You're Division 3. Oh, don't worry about it. My kid is going D1. I'm like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? All of those times, man, well, I had to sit through all of that stuff, you know, being overlooked, you know what I mean, other coaches and all that. So like God kept me, man. So I was prepared for that. Now again, going back to it, I still had some time. I still had to do something.
Hmm.
I couldn't just sit. But that's what I started reflecting on, man, is like how good God had been. And I couldn't dare get into a place because it wasn't my fault that the school was closing. You know, we didn't have some scandal. You know what I'm saying? So it made it more palatable that like we lost
Does
our
that make
job.
it more palatable? Because I was going to say, you know, when something when I was going to say when something bad happens to you, when you face a bad consequence over something you did something wrong, you know everything from, you know, maybe something small, you were rude to someone, to something huge, a murder, right?
Yeah.
When something happens, again, not when something happens to you, when a bad consequence happens because of something you had control over, you know, even if we lie to ourselves and say, well, you know, it's because of the man or whatever, there's still a little bit of like, well, you know,
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't have yelled at my boss or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? When when a bad consequence, not a bad consequence, this is where it is something bad happening to you. You had nothing you did contributed to the
Right.
reasons BSC had to close down.
Right.
So you have zero control over that. There is where I could see people getting upset,
Yeah.
frustrated, disillusioned with the system. It's like, man, we went to nationals every year. We had kids graduating every year. I go into administration. I'm not doing just my track job. I'm doing all this. Easy to get disillusioned with like a lot of things, whether it's our faith, whether it's
Hmm.
education, etc. I hear, not only do I not hear you having any of that, I hear it actually the exact opposite of how it sounds like it strengthened your faith. It
Yeah.
strengthened your love of serving others. It strengthened your family.
Yeah, man.
How do you you're an extremely positive person. You're not the stereotypical positive person, meaning you're not the guy who's bouncing around the walls, everybody, you know, high-fiving everybody and that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? You're just not that that's not genuine, because that is genuine for some people, but you're just you're a quiet every time I look, there's Kenneth. You know, you're always there. You're always there. That's important. Showing up is
Yeah.
important.
That was important for me as a coach, man.
Yeah.
That's why I was here for 16 years, man.
Yeah, exactly. How did that, what is it? What's the secret sauce? And I know there's no secret sauce, but
Well, no, I was
how do you
so
have that mentality?
going back to examples, man. Like my parents, man, have been married 49 years.
Oh,
You know, like my dad. I mean, and we didn't talk about the challenges of marriage, but like that means something. You know what I'm saying? Like, uh,
100%.
my in-laws, same thing. They've been married, I think, going on 50 years. My coaches, like, I mean, Coach Craddock, he was there until
Hmm.
retired, and guy called him home. Coach Fry had been there. You know what I'm saying? He retired there
Right.
once he got. Um, I mean, so that I mean, consistency matters to me.
Yeah.
Um, it really does. And going to conventions, and this is not a knock, man, but like seeing some coaches that are at one school 1 year, they're at another school one
Yeah.
year, like It might be cool. But like taking some kids through, as a freshman to a senior, and then, now I'm at a stage now where I'm like, I'm up to like probably 3 or 4 weddings a year. You know what I'm saying? But like I've seen them through from a freshman in high school to like college, and then like maybe grad school or something like that. Like it just, to me, it means more. And I always wanted to be that coach, man, where like I was reliable. You know what I mean? Like, and I know there's circumstances, but as it relates to me, like there's something to be said for like, for consistency and being present, man.
So, um, because of time,
Yeah,
I'm going to skip over kind of and it's super interesting. You run for office again, more
yeah,
just servant leadership, and I
yeah.
want to jump to now the position at the Birmingham CrossPlex. So, how do you? I think this is where coaches, the conversations that I have with coaches who think about getting out of coaching, whether it's to get into administration or private sector, et cetera, their number one fear is I won't be affecting young people. I won't be coaching little Johnny, little Susie, etc. Right? How are how are you bridging that gap? Now you're overseeing this extremely important. And you're right. I tend to think of the crossplex only as the track and field, but you're
I
right. There's
thought,
swimming, there's
yep.
basketball, there's a whole shebang there. How are you concerned about a lack of direct influence over young people in this position? And because I know the answer to that, what's got you excited there in your position?
So how I've been prepared. So like, being able to have my hand in like national championships. So we hosted 3 national championships over the last 10 years. Um, 2 of which all 3 of them I was a part of the bid for Division 3, and being excited about creating that opportunity for athletes, fans, and coaches. As a coach who went through it, but also too now being on this side of it, I think is exciting for me. I as someone that's a part of the community, I've had an opportunity to coach, kids on the side. So, people call me and say, hey, I want you to coach my kid. And so to be able to know that the Birmingham CrossPlex is such an important asset for the city of Birmingham, for this region, for this state, for this nation, means that all the passion that I had as a coach, as a former athlete, as a coach, as a parent, um, as a stakeholder, because we hosted, indoor championship or indoor meets here. Like I've been able to be a part of it, and now I get a chance to do all of that and to be able to articulate that to people at every stage at every stage of it. And so that to me is exciting.
Yeah.
People say, "Man, you're gonna miss coaching." Like I've heard that probably 10 times. Um, and I'm not saying, and for me, I didn't take a job because I hate coaching. I appreciate it and I enjoy it. And so how I plan on continuing to stay engaged in coaching, what I'm saying, is sharing my story, my journey with other coaches, providing them with an opportunity for them to do what they love doing without the barriers of, oh my gosh, what I'm saying, like we don't have proper food here, what I'm saying, or like, we need a place that we can host a championship. Well, let's talk about how we can do that, because I've had to do that with less resources or with someone or a group of people who did not understand track and field, you know. And so it's really kind of like, paying it forward, like I prayed about, man, like, man, I wish I had an indoor track. I was thinking I was talking about it so I could coach people. I didn't know that I'd be, I'm saying, be praying so that other people can come in here, you
That's
know.
awesome.
Um, I have an opportunity, man, to like see a lot of my closest friends that I grew up with in coaching. When you come into the building, other coaches when they come in town, when they're like, hey, we're in town for a national championship, we want to come and get a shakeout. Like that's how I can give back to the coaches who took a chance on me. You know what I'm saying? Just to have a conversation, to pour into me. So that's really what I'm excited about. And then I also too, like, like I told you before, I love people. And this is a place where people can come here, whether it's their first track meet ever, whether it's their final track meet as a senior in high school or a senior in college. to be able to create memories. And
Mm.
people will always say, man, like, I remember that guy, for helping me, find a block, or he
Yep.
find my seat, or find a back, whatever it is, man. It's like, and so that is how at this stage I can continue to stay relevant, what I'm saying, in track and field, but also too within the world,
Mm.
and so I've had 16 years on a campus where I was able to be all of that, the coach, to mentor, to be an administrator, and now I have, God has entrusted me, with being able to bring everything, all the things that I value, but also too, like, be in a place where people value me, like
Mm.
that's rare, man. Like, it is. The last 2 years have prepared me for this. It was the Transplant Games of America. I was one of the managers for that. The World Police and Fire Games, which was also here in Birmingham. I was the senior games manager. And then this past fall, I was director of operations for UAB football with Learfield. So I got a chance to see, man, like, in the last 2.5 years, I got a chance to see all the things that, like, I had track experience and
Mm.
coaching, building teams. I had fan engagement, what I'm saying, and community engagement. You talked about, running for office. Like, that was intentional. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go talk to some people and have some conversations that you may not want to have. I represent the city of Birmingham, an incredible mayor, Mayor Woodfin. I have, man, like, an incredible team. I don't call them, employees and all that stuff. We have an incredible team that they grind, man. Like,
Yeah.
right now, like, we're getting ready to host a regional CrossFit, what I'm saying, like, qualifier for the nationals. Like, if I was at Birmingham Southern, I would get a chance to do that.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I'm
kind of
saying?
crazy. Yeah.
So it's all those types of things that come together, um, that really remind me that, you know what, like, I will always have a presence, in within the sport, and
Mm.
will be relevant. And I think it's also something to be said for D1, D2, D3 to come in a space where they're hosting championships, and conference championships, and just invitationals, where they have someone that gets it. And I don't think I really realized that until I got here, because
Mm.
people would say that, oh yeah, I know, I know Cox, man. Like, he's one of us. And I'm like, yeah, I am one of y'all. You know what I mean? Like, and so, it's just a blessing, Mike, man. Like, God is so good, man. Like, I mean, he is so good. And as an appointed official, like, they already did their research, so they already knew, what I'm saying, what I did, and the things that I haven't done. They have confidence and faith in me, and my ability.
Right.
They have faith in God, but, like, my ability, what I'm saying, to get it done and to lead well. And for the latter part of my career, coaching and administrative, that's really what I was trying
Mm-hmm.
to get across to people, you know, is that I'm your guy. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wasn't afforded the opportunity. I was looked over, but it's all good, man. God got the final say.
I get why and when coaches say, facilities aren't the be all, and you don't have to have a fancy facility to coach kids and all that kind of stuff. And I get all that. As an equipment guy, I'm like, well, yeah, I might think you're wrong professionally, but I have been blessed to be involved in the CrossPlex from when it was supposed to go to Hoover. By the way, I met with the mayor of Hoover and all that kind of stuff, all the way up till today. I'm so blessed to have been involved in the Chicago, Gately Park, Conrad Worrell Center, Louisville, Spokane, and many others. But what's interesting to me, and I've seen this through the now, long time that CrossFlex has been there. I've seen it with Chicago, Spokane. These buildings, while it's fun, we love to talk about the NCAA championships that you host and things like that. And that's awesome and it's fun and it is cool and that's all that good stuff. But we forget that eighth grade track camp happens in places like this. High school regular invites happen in places like this. And so and a lot of it comes from my experience of working with the team from the Crossplex during development. When I meet with Spokane, Chicago, Virginia Beaches, et cetera, I go, guys, you're not just building a track. That oversimplifies that it's 200 meters and all this kind of stuff. You're building something that will affect this community. Like, not only just for our sport, by the way, like you mentioned, CrossFit and other stuff, things like that. You're building something that will help this community, will give jobs to this community, will give hope to these kids.
Yep.
Again, going back to when how important it was for you to go to other places when you were in middle school and high school. Like, wow, there's more to this world than just the 30 minutes that I know of around my town, so to help see these young people, help these young people see that there's like I said, a big world out there and they can become a lot of amazing things, teachers, business owners, coaches, facility directors, etc. And I think that's super important. That's why I do think facilities are important. I think facilities like the CrossPlex are extremely important. And of course, I'm 100% biased being, someone I call myself from Alabama. I love that Alabama young people get to learn their craft, learn track and field, learn maybe that they want to become a coach one day in such an amazing facility. And so when I found out, I found out by accident, by the way, that you were the new director. Former directors have all been friends of mine as well. Christy Mixon, love her to death. AJ, love him. Harvey has been there. I mean, just, rest in peace, Harvey. We've got a lot of amazing people, leaders in that position. And so when I found out it was you, I was like, oh, brother, you talk about a match made in heaven. You talk about a servant leader at a place that serves others. Holy cow, this is amazing. So I'm just super proud of you, man. Super happy for you. Super proud and excited for the facility. As a city-run facility, those are different than our college-run facilities. So super proud. And you're right. I've met a lot. I'm sure there's some new people since I've been there last, but the team that is at the CrossPlex, from the guy who is in charge of janitorial, I've met that dude. He was an amazing guy. The guys that change out takeoff board. I mean, just
Yeah.
superb men and women there, which, that's what I would expect from the city of Birmingham. So super excited and super excited to see you as the
Thank you.
director there, my friend.
I appreciate it, brother. I really do, man. I really do. It's interesting when you first so 7 years you've been doing the podcast, right? And there's some times where you've done it at the national convention. And I still have, I think I kept either the flyer that you put out there, and I said, I said, man, one day I'm actually gonna be on the podcast at convention. And I didn't get a chance to the last time. I think my flight. I think my
Yeah,
flight
yeah.
was something like that, because we were obviously dealing with the school closing and everything. But it's amazing, man. Like I'm proud of you,
Mhm.
and the fact that God is, from start to finish, from my time here at Birmingham, or start to finish at Birmingham Southern, rather, that we were part of watching you, you know,
Mhm.
build what you've done at Gill, and we appreciate it so much. But then also to have you as a friend, and one of the first people that I had the opportunity to talk to about this opportunity. So it's yeah, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm thrilled to be able to just call you friend, call you
Yeah.
brother, and watch you continue to do some great things, man. Gil.
Well, I certainly appreciate what you did and do as a coach and what you do in our sport. I am super grateful that you have an open stance to what God is moving you to do, my friend, because a lot of that stuff wouldn't have happened if you didn't say, all right, well, I guess we're going here this time, God. And all right, I guess we're doing this now. So,
You
and
want
that's not always, even for a guy like you full of faith, that's not always easy. So,
yeah,
we are
yeah.
still human at the beginning and end of the day. So,
Yeah, we
uh,
are.
so super grateful
Yeah,
for
we
you,
are.
man. Kenneth, the most valuable thing you can give me is your time, man. You're busy. I know there's things going on. The Magic City games I see behind you, and the facility like that. We think of that facility as a December through March facility. That facility's got something going 365 days a year. And if there
Wow,
is a time to take a breath, well, that means they're just preparing for the next thing.
man.
So I know you're super busy. Thank you so much for
Thank
your time today, man. Your journey's amazing.
you.
I love it. There's just so much that just makes my heart grow, and everything from the Carolina Blue to finding a home in Birmingham and making community there, and lots of great people there. Lars, Mary, that I don't think of enough. I need to think about them more, and so just this was a lot of fun for me. So I'm really grateful for your time and openness and authenticity today.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. Means the world.
And thank you guys for being here. I hope this kind of shows you. And like I said, we didn't really get into even like the running for elections and things like that for public servancy. Because again, I just love showing our audience that, our college, our coaches that are out there. Uh, Again, I'm not telling you to get out of coaching, but like when he talked about administration, you've heard me say this before. I really encourage coaches, if they have the want to go into administration and the ability to go into administration, to do so, because you notice how he said, I was invited into meetings that I wasn't invited into before. That's right. A lot of decisions about our sport are made in meetings that we're, as a coaches, are not invited to become there. Well, I certainly would like people who have a passion for track and field to be in those meetings, and that doesn't happen if you don't go into administration. So I love how he expressed that, because that's exactly true. So if you have a bend towards administration, I would just encourage you to follow that heart, follow that love, and see where it leads you. And never forget about track and field. So thanks again so much for being here, guys and gals. Really appreciate you. See you next week. We'll do it all over again. See you guys.